Hey guys, so one thing that I really like to do in my math class is make videos showing you guys what we've talked about or what we are going to talk about. So I'm making my first video now, and this is going to review the 3 skills that you've learned over the first 3 weeks of school. So we're going to talk about graphing, we're going to talk about patterns and tables, and we're going to talk about line graphs. So as we're going through, I have a problem, and it's called Jesse's yard service. So we're going to be looking at making a table and finding the pattern, graphing it, so using our X and Y coordinates to graph, and then putting that line through it to make it a line graph, and kind of analyzing that line graph a little bit to show what it looks like. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the table, and I'm going to show you a picture of the table that I have here, and it's Jesse's yard service, like I had said. And it talks about the number of yards that he mows and then how much he earned by mowing that yard. So if he mowed 0 yards, he obviously earned $0. But if he mowed 1 yard, he earned $20. If he mowed 2 yards, he got $40. If he mowed 3 yards, he got $60. So take a minute and think to yourself, what is the pattern looking like? If he were to mow 4 yards, how much money would he earn? So looking at our pattern over here of earnings, we know that it goes from 0 to 20 to 40 to 60. And I can think to myself, what can I do from 1 to get to 20? Well, I can multiply by 20. So let's check that here. What can I do from 2 to get to 40? Well, I can multiply that by 22. And then what can I do to get from 3 to 60? Well, I can multiply that by 22. So our pattern here going across is multiplying by 20. So if I continue to do this on down, I'm going to scoot a little bit closer. If I continue to do this on down, 40 times 20 is 80. So he would earn $80 for 4 yards. 5 times 20 is 100, so he would earn $100 for 5 yards. For 6 yards, 60 times 20 would be 120. And then we have 7 yards and 8 yards. So for 7 yards, he would earn 140, and for 8 yards, he would earn $160. So my question over here to the side said, what is the pattern? Well, the pattern is multiplying by 20. So I'm going to answer that right there. So I have my table and I've completed it. Now it's time to look at the graph. So I have a graph here, and I've already kind of gridded it out, but we're still missing a couple things. I'm missing a title. So if I look back at my table, my table's title is Jesse's yard service, so I need to make sure I title my graph the same thing. I'm going to write it up here. And I have my y-axis labeled, I have my y-axis listed and my x-axis listed, but I need to label those. So looking back at the graph, which one of those is going to be the x-axis? Right, the number of yards mowed is going to be the x-axis. Number of yards mowed. And I can go ahead and label those as the different yards. So I numbered to 7. That's all I had room for. And then my y-axis, we still need to figure it out. So my y-axis is going to be my earnings. That's what's left. And I'm going to label it earnings. And looking back at our table, what's going to be the best way to number our earnings? It goes from 0 to 20 to 40 to 60 to 80, 100, 120, 140, and 160. So I'm thinking let's number it by 10. So I'm going to count by tens. So I counted all the way up to 150 on my earnings there on the side. Now it's time for me to start plotting my points. So I'm going to use my green crayon or my green marker to plot my points. My first point is 0 yards mowed, $0 earned. So that's just going to be down here at my 0 where we start, which is also called the origin of the graph. So I'm going to write origin down here just so I can remember that. And then I'm going to plot my first green point right there. Okay. The second part of the second column of my graph is 1 yard for $20. So again, when we're plotting, we have to go to the right first, which is 1, and then we have to go up to 20. So my second point is going to be right there. So there's point 120. The next one that I have is 240. So my second one, I'm going to go over 2, 1, 2, and I'm going to go up to 40. So it's going to be plotted right there. Remember that you always have to go over to the side first and then go up. You crawl before you can walk is the hint that we use in my room. The next point is 360. So for 3 yards, he gets $60, and I've plotted that one right there. The next one is 480, over 4, up 80. Then I have 5 100, so if he mows 5 yards, he gets $100. And then I have 6 120, so if he mows 6 yards, he gets $120. And the last one that I have room for is 7 140, so I'm going to go all the way over to 7, and then I'm going to go all the way up to 140, which should be about right there, and I'm going to plot my point there. Now, in order to make this graph a line graph, we have to make sure we draw our line through it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So looking at my graph, the more yards he mows, the more money he gets. So if he mows more yards, his money's going to continue to go up. Therefore, this graph is showing an increase. Our dots keep going up and up and up and up and up. And anytime that we're going up, that means to increase. Now, if he started out at $0 and he continued to increase, how much money would he make if he mowed 9 yards, if this pattern continued to go? So if you remember back, the pattern was multiplying by 20. So think about what 9 times 20 is. And it's 180. Good. So if the pattern continues to increase, he's going to make more yards he's going to make more money for the more yards that he mows. So hopefully this kind of jogs your memory back to what we started talking about with at the beginning of school. Remember, if you have any questions, please make sure that you do ask your teacher. Have a great one.